Hello and welcome back to HEMAFightBreakdowns. Today I want to talk about the defensive left Zwerch. Now, I've said previously, and it says in the text as well, that Zwerchs are very effective for defending your high line from counterattacks and afterblows. And what we're going to look at here are two exchanges where I try to utilize the left Zwerch. But what's important is that this first one is going to be a failed attempt at using the left Zwerch. Not failed because it doesn't land, but failed because it doesn't defend. And then the second example is going to be an example where I use the left Zwerch and do defend. And what I want this to show is that when you're trying to use the left Zwerch, you have to be very, very careful about how you position your hands and how you land the cut so that you're ready to defend the afterblow immediately. So the first thing we're going to watch is the failure. So if we rewind this and play it again for a little bit. Right here, I've successfully blocked this overhow very high, and I'm coming around for the left Zwerch. Now, what's important to note here is that as of this point, my thumb is not really under the blade, and as I come in on this Zwerch, I come in very steep and angled. I still think it's fair to say that it lands edge on, but if you look very carefully here at this position I end at, my hands are crossed in front of me, but on the right side of my body. My right leg is forward, which means that my left hip rotation squared me up. And as you can clearly see, there is a very, very easy angle for my opponent to come in on and hit me right in the head. Right there. That's a pretty good hit there. And the reason it was so easy to come in is because my arms were not over my head and they were not pulled back towards my left side. When you're throwing the left Zwerch, what you have to be sure of is that the second you make contact and you land, that position right there has to be defending your upper left opening. There's nothing you can really do about it defending your upper right opening, but what you have to make sure of is that whenever you're landing Zwerchs and you want them to defend you, you have to be thinking about that defense as soon as you land, not after. As you can see here, there is really no time for me to respond. This is where contact gets made, maybe arguably here. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 frames until my head is removed. That's not enough time for anyone really to pull a guard into a defensive measure. And if you want to be defending yourself against afterblows, you need to be thinking about them the second you land and not after you land. I think this is the reason a lot of people get hit by afterblows, not just necessarily in this position, but because they think that they can land and then someone else is just going to respect that tempo and they're going to respect that, almost turn-taking style of fencing, and they're not just going to hit you at the same time as you hit them. So what we're coming to now is the example of the successful left Zwerch. Now, this is from the same tournament, but a different fight. And what we're going to pay attention to in this exchange is not just the left Zwerch, but where the position is when it lands. So we'll play it again. We'll pause it, do frame by frame. So similar sort of setup. You parry a thrust. You throw the Zwerch. But there's two things to pay attention to here. One, when the Zwerch lands, which is right here, the hands are in a completely different position. Despite the fact that they're being pushed, they're over the head. And as you can see, if you look at the line, it's sort of hard to see due to the quality of the video. But if you want to imagine that this is where my head is, my arms are over my head to an extent, with my left arm maybe just ever so slightly off to the right side of my face. And what this means is that my right arm is basically on the same line as where my Zwerch is landing. And what that means is that this sword, as you can clearly see coming down right in front of my face, is still on the right side of my blade, which means that theoretically, instead of a push, this was a cut from the right side to my left side, it would have hit my guard. It would have hit my cross guard, which is currently horizontal right here. And this is important not just because it's protecting my left side, but also because, as a somewhat unintended consequence, whenever a right-handed person throws a left side Zwerch, they have to cross their hands and they have to put them over their head. And what this also does is it defends you from this very common counter to the Zwerch, which is to push weight against the hands of your opponent and to make sure they don't have the momentum or the rotation they need to generate actual force. So if we go back to right as the Zwerch starts coming, you can see that even back here when the stab first misses, the response is basically to come in and jam the hands. And this is a good idea. And if this were a right Zwerch, my right hand would be here, pretty much right in front of my body, and that would be the one you would have to push against in order to stop the rotation, since that's the one closest to the crossguard of the sword. It's the one doing the most work. When my opponent here pushes against my hands right here, there is no real hand to push against. My right hand is far back behind my head, and my left hand is over off on the right side. The left Zwerch offers this as a pretty nice, decent defensive option because it does not only the thing that you want your Zwerch to do, which is to close off the line from cuts coming from above, but it also has the consequence of pulling your hands back to make you significantly harder to grapple. As you can see here, the line of my blade, right where it starts, right about here, is past the line of my shoulder, meaning that if you want to grapple me, you have to move past my physical body in order to reach my blade. And that also means that when I throw my left Zwerch, I can hit everything right up until only a few inches in front of my face. Conversely, with the right Zwerch or any kind of Oberhau, the length of your arms is adding a kind of safe zone that exists directly in front of your body, that if someone manages to put their head or their hands in that area, they can protect their closest target, aka their arms, from harm, and they can work to stifle any of your follow-up cuts.